Hello ladies and gentlemen, it's Nathan, and welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, people from all over the world converge on this channel to watch me make a massive meal for myself that I usually consume in a single day, because as the channel says, I only eat one meal a day. And so yeah, if you want to enjoy this video as much as I like making them, people who are longtime viewers like to watch these videos with a meal of their own, or with a beverage. So with that being said, let's get into the video. Hello. Today we're obviously doing something a little bit different. We're going to be making ourselves a simple pot roast. So I have nothing special on how to go about this. I'm simply going to put things together in it's a simple process, just like I do with the rest of my meals. You're not supposed to have anything really special to do this. I'm just feeling pot roast. I want to change things up a little bit, and so that is what we're going to do. This is a 2.5 pound chuck roast of equal 2.5 pounds of potatoes, 5 medium carrots, and some spices to go along with it. Oh yeah, and don't forget a medium onion. So we're just going to season this up with salt and pepper. I have about a half tablespoon of olive oil in the pan, which is already smoking, which is good. We're going to sear this, add this into our crock pot, cut up the vegetables, peel them, and we'll let that sit for about 8 hours. And we'll be done, we'll be ready to go. Thank you. The fan makes it a little bit more difficult for us to chat with one another, but we'll work with it. Let's just get a lot of the meat that we had off of that cutting board so we can switch over to the vegetables. I could have taken the time to prep all of this, but our videos are usually like 25 plus minutes long. And if I had prepped everything, basically I would just be searing the meat. We wouldn't have time to actually chat with one another. So this would be simple. It brings me back to when I used to work in a kitchen. I started out, it was my first ever job. I wanted to work in food service because that's where the most money was to be made at the job. They put me behind like the ticket section. It was kind of like a Chuck E. Cheese, like a little family fun center place. And they put me behind the ticket counter section. I was miserable there. It was absolutely horrible because most of the time people weren't going in to redeem tickets. And the times that they were, it was absolutely packed and slammed and people were indecisive. It gives me some respect for people that have to work in roles like that, especially long term, because it isn't easy. You actually have to have some pretty good patience. But when I started working behind the counter for food service, they put me on prep duty, which was basically just exactly what I'm doing right now. Get all of our vegetables squared away, everything cut to size, so that when the orders came in, we could just grab it and go. And then after doing that for about 6 months, I got to do some more. Actually got to make some of the food, which was nice. So personally, like I said, we're going to move on to the potatoes as well and peel those. I like the skins of my potatoes, but I want to try things a little bit different. I think if you want the best potatoes for like a traditional stew, you would get something like Yukon potatoes. Those are more golden, yellow, and waxy. I think they keep their shape well, and they take on a lot of the flavor of what you're cooking. These russet potatoes will do just fine. And then I picked out, I got a small bag of carrots. And I picked the largest carrots that were out there, because we're going to have this cooking on low for about 8 hours. And I don't want the carrots to be soft. So So we're going to cut these carrots pretty thick. I'm okay if they're a little bit crunchy at the end, but we just don't want them to be soft. Same thing with the potatoes, we're going to be cutting them thick. Same with the onion. Because we just want a good, firm vegetable when we bite into it. So this has been going for about 5 minutes. I say that we give this a bit of a turn. Yeah, and that's not a bad crust. That's not bad at all. It's actually quite well. And the reason why we do this is so that it keeps and retains its flavor, basically, while the inside cooks up. We don't want all of the juices just to run out of it. So we do this to retain the flavor of the meat. I don't think it matters a whole ton because it's just going to be contained in the crock pot anyway. We're going to be adding a little bit of beef broth. And that's about the size that I want for our carrots. You know, crock pot meals are actually some of my favorite meals to make just in general. But for the sake of the channel, I'm trying to upload here 5 days a week. If I'm making a crock pot meal every day, it doesn't really leave a whole lot of opportunities to show you what I'm eating, right? Because this stuff will typically last multiple days. This here looks like about, I don't know, a serving or two of carrots. This is by far, way more potatoes than I need in a single meal. That could last me a long time, but that's kind of the ratio for stew. If you're making stew, the basis of that, at least for me, is meat and potatoes. And if you're looking for a good ratio of meat to potato, it's equal parts meat to equal parts potato. So this will probably last me 2 days, is my thought. So I'll still have a video coming out tomorrow. I also like having a fair portion of eggs every day, so I'll probably have a bowl of this for myself tomorrow with a plate of eggs and maybe some bacon. And this video should give you a good idea of just how long something like this takes to put together more or less from scratch. I want to get these potatoes done relatively soon. I'm going to have to wash them afterwards. But I can smell that the other side of that chuck roast is already done. We then want to get the sides of the chuck roast as well. But the sides, I can't really just let it sit on its own. You need to baby the sides a little bit more so that it doesn't fall over. So. Let's get this done here a little bit more quickly. I'm going to be a little less gentle. Pretend here. Yeah, the whole premise of like what I cook and what I eat every day is that it doesn't take a whole lot of time to prep, doesn't take a whole lot of time to put together. So obviously a big 2.5 chunk of meat takes a long time to cook, but if you're able to just let it sit in a crock pot for about 8 hours without checking in on it, that is pretty beneficial to me. I'm also a big chicken and dumplings fan. Chicken and dumplings is huge. I think I've made that for you earlier in a year on the channel. So I'd love to make that again. But anytime I make chicken and dumplings, I like making a double portion of it because it's just so good. It's like one of my favorite meals. Okay, let's give this another flip. Yeah, and as you can see, that cooked a little more thoroughly. So I'm gonna let this sit on this side for just a couple of more minutes. Let me go in here and wash these. Again, we're going to keep this nice and thick with the goal of having vegetables that are thoroughly cooked through, but not soft. That way they keep their shape and don't fall apart when we take it out of the crock pot. And tomorrow you can tune in and see for yourself just how successful we were, or not. Most of what I do on the channel is trial and error, even with things that I cook really consistently, like multiple times a week. So let's try this out. So how do I want to do this? I think what I'll do is I will half the potato, and I'll cut this one into thirds. I think this will be like a good size. So I'll put it lengthwise, half it. Cut them into thirds. Big enough to stay nice and firm and not get too soft, but small enough to be able to fit on a spoon. And for this one, I think I'll fourth it. So again, we want it to fit on a spoon. This one I think we'll cut into thirds. And this one we will definitely be cutting into fourths, maybe even fifths, because it's quite thick. Let's see what we got here. Yeah, I'll do fifths. Perfect. There's all of our potatoes, our carrots, and I'm pressing even myself. That's actually going to sear just fine down at that end. Just good. Okay. Perfect. Our onion will be next. And the whole premise of this is that we're just going to keep really large slices. So we're peeled, halved, and into thirds again. And I'm going to put this on the pan once the meat is done cooking. So I'm going to separate this out just so that it cooks up a little bit quicker. If you want some fresh garlic, feel free to include that as well. But look, if you're experienced with cooking, you already know the type of seasonings that you want and the type of ingredients that you want to add in to add some flavor. For me, it's like this is something that a college student could put together on a budget. You know, the chuck roast that I have, you know, even chuck roast is like the cheapest part of beef, with the exception of like ground beef, of course. But if you're getting a full cut of meat, chuck roast is the cheapest one. And I got mine on like 50% off, so it was about the same cost as like some chicken, to be honest. So it was just something I couldn't pass up. I thought I had some beef broth, but all I have is chicken broth. So we're going to use some beef bouillon cubes instead. And after that steak, the chuck roast is done searing, there's going to be a lot of particulate at the bottom of the pan. So we're going to take some water, about a cup and a half, maybe 1 1/4 cups of water. Don't do what I'm doing. These things take a really long time to dissolve, and I want to see if I can shorten that process. But this is a bad habit and probably not safe. So don't do it. Yeah, and things like that can happen where you lose some of it because it spits off the side. Gosh, it's been about 6 months on this channel. Did that just go straight into the trash can? I can't see it at all. Can't see it on the floor. I think it just ended up directly in the trash can. It's been about 6 months of me cutting onions on camera, and this is the first time that I'm genuinely starting to tear up. So here we go, another awesome crust here on the top. We get our final corner down. I'm not going to worry too much about this end piece right here. I've been searing it for about 4 to 5 minutes on each side, and this is the longest part, so it's perfect opportunity to get the rest of the vegetables prepped while this is being taken care of. We're not going to sit here for a whole 5 minutes. This crust is obviously a little bit overdone. You can see that there's some burn marks on it. But the inside of the meat is going to work just fine. This goes without saying, I didn't say this at the beginning of the video, but make sure that this piece of meat is completely thawed and preferably room temperature, because that's going to make this sear that much easier to get. So I'm going to look at the other side. Yeah, not really a crust on that side, but it's a good sear nonetheless. So we're going to reduce our heat down just a little bit and bring this pan out. We'll go over to our crock pot, which is already sitting at low temperature. Be careful with the meat, and slowly place it in the middle. What's left is a bit of the seasoning in the pan, as well as some of the crunchy bits at the bottom. I'm going to save this. We're just going to lightly saute these onions. Honestly, something as simple as that is probably good. Like I said, this is a good time to add your garlic, any sort of other seasonings that you want. If I really wanted to, I can put some garlic salt that I have on this, but I just don't really see the point. So let's turn this up to high heat. Doesn't look like there's a whole lot of burnt bits at the bottom, so I won't worry about this too much, but in your case there probably will be. I'm going to grab about a little bit more than 1 1/4 cups of water. I'm going to wait for this to heat up just a little bit more. And I'm going to add this in to kind of deglaze the pan. If you want wine, you want something else, feel free to go ahead. Again, you all are probably more experienced with cooking than I am. Let's take a wooden spoon, which is excellent for deglazing. I don't use bouillon cubes very often, so maybe I'm doing a big no-no right now. Usually I just use regular old broth. But I don't want too much of this water to evaporate on me. So if this doesn't mix in quick enough, I'm just going to add it to the crock pot so that we can save the water. But you can see that the water is changing color. It's probably in part due to the bouillon cubes and a little bit of what's left in the bottom of the pan. You don't want to add too much water because you want all of the liquid that comes out of the steak to kind of thicken up inside of the crock pot. But if you do end up with a little bit too much liquid at the end, you can kind of try to turn this into a gravy by removing the meat and vegetables after everything's done cooking and then adding some cornstarch to what's remaining in the liquid. And that'll just thicken everything up. And you can just pour that on top of all of your food when it's done. You shouldn't have any need to cut the meat. The meat itself should be tender enough once it's done cooking to just kind of fall apart. That's mixing together quite well. There's barely any bit of bouillon that isn't dissolved yet. This looks good enough to me. So I'm going to take this pan out so we can keep the fond water and our bouillon together. And we're going to pour this directly over the meat and into the bottom here, which is great. Okay, so we're on to the final stages. Thank you for sticking around with me this long. So, like I said, we don't want things to turn out really soft, right? But there's a bunch of liquid at the bottom. So don't just haphazardly throw all of your vegetables in here. Take the starchiest, thickest, most firm vegetables that you have, your potatoes, and layer them around the outside of your meat. This will soak up a lot of the flavor that is inside of that liquid and also provide a barrier for you for the rest of your vegetables. Perfect. Now, before we get too far ahead, let's put in some of our final different flavorings. So Worcestershire sauce, I have just about enough left for this meal and this meal alone. We have some thyme, and some rosemary. So I'm just going to put the rest of this Worcestershire sauce in here. There's barely any left. So I'm just going to dump it over the top. Frankly, you should probably put in a little bit more, but I haven't used this Worcestershire sauce in a while. I might as well use it now. Let's top the meat with a little bit of rosemary. And the rest of our potatoes with some thyme. Perfect. Hope you're getting a good view of that. I'll check in to make sure. If you're not, we improve that view for you. Next will be the carrots. You definitely don't want these carrots to be on the bottom, otherwise they for sure will get soft. So putting them on top of the potatoes is really useful. Great. And then finally, the onions. The onions are still nice and firm. We didn't cook them very long. And we'll place them on top of our meat, leaving plenty of buffer so that even when that meat lets all of its juices out, the onions are not going to get soaked. And that should be about it. Some people like putting a little bit more extra virgin olive oil into their crock pot. Some people have some different seasonings that they want to use. Some people like to marinate their chuck roast ahead of time before going into something like this. But again, I'm trying to make this as simple as possible. The meat has all been salted and peppered really thoroughly, so when it cooks, all of that salt and pepper is going to seep out into the rest of the meal. And once this is done cooking in about 8 hours, if the flavoring is not right, we can always just season it afterwards. So this is about it for me. I am going to head off to work, and when I return, I'm just going to take this crock pot and put it just directly in the fridge. And in the morning, I will take it back out, and that will be my lunch and dinner for the day. I'll probably add some eggs just off to the side as well for breakfast. So I encourage all of you to tune in tomorrow. I also have an entire roast chicken here in the freezer right now. So maybe next weekend we can go ahead and take care of that little chicken and show you how to do a roast chicken. I appreciate all of you for watching. I will see you tomorrow. Thank you. Bye.